Welcome to Week 7 of the Coach Hughes Show. As always, I'm joined by Minot State Beavers football head coach Tyler Hughes. Coach, you guys are coming off a pretty exciting win, overtime win against a rival team. How important was that win to this program?
Yeah, it was very important. You know, we needed to get a win, and we definitely needed to do it against our rival school. So, throughout the week of practice, our guys battled hard. They were focused. They were dialed in on things, which was great to see. And then they put it together in the game in a lot of different ways, and then ultimately into overtime. So it was good to see their determination. It was good to see things come together for them. They've worked hard, and I was happy for them.
The game kind of went back and forth. They scored first, then we scored, but we went up 7-6, and then tied the game in the end. Is there any time during that game that you were kind of worried, is this another one of those games that things were going to slip through?
Well, the main thing is you just want to just keep the players playing and coaches coaching. And there's always moments where more tense than others throughout a game, and as they had drove the ball down really well at the end of the game to allow it to go into overtime, that was something that I felt like we could have done better. We gave up too many third and fourth down completions and conversion opportunities, and so that had us a little bit on the edge of our seat. But at the same time, I felt like our guys would eventually tighten things up. And they held them to a field goal, and then they played defensively excellent in overtime, and then allowed our offense to get the ball with a tie score. So and then again the offense did a really nice job in that area too. So yeah, there was tense moments, but I felt like the kids had good poise about them throughout the game.
A win is great, a rivalry win is great too, but then you get a trophy on top of that. How fun is it to see your players, pick up the trophy? They're all taking selfies with it and taking pictures and stuff like that. How fun is that for you as a coach to see?
Well, it's great. As we've talked as a team in the last couple of weeks, you only get 11 guaranteed games. So for all the time that you put into football throughout the year, the weightlifting, meetings, conditioning sessions, film study, and all those things that you have to do, with 11 games, they're about 3 hours each, so you're only guaranteed 33 hours of game action. So when it comes right down to it, you got to really cherish that moment and those opportunities. And so, when you have a rival game and there's the Big Lake Trophy to go along with it, it's a lot of fun. That's what college football is all about, is those type of traditions and that type of excitement. So it was good to see, and I was happy. As I said, I was really happy for our players that they had that opportunity.
How much different is that post-game in the locker room, and then even like the ride home, coming home with a victory?
Well, it's a lot better than the alternative, that's for sure. Guys were loose, they were relaxed, they were enjoying what had happened. I think the big thing for us now though is understanding that one is over, and that we need to get ready for St. Cloud State and a good football team. And so as great as it was and as exciting as it was, at some point we have to be able to in a way flush that and move on to the next thing. So that's kind of where we're at right now as a program, is we've got to just put this one to bed and then get on to the next one.
Your team had a lot of success running the ball, over 250 yards rushing. Struggled a little bit in the air with 3 interceptions. With the running attack, was that something that you saw weaknesses in their defense, or was it kind of taking the ball out of your quarterback's hands a little bit?
Well, we just felt like that's something that we need to be able to do. Since the time I've been here at Minot State, it was important to me, always has been, to run the football. I feel like it adds to the physicality of your overall team makeup. I think it gives you an attitude, and then I think it allows you to control the clock and control the tempo of the game. So that's something that we've always wanted to do. This game was no different. We just had a lot of success with it. We weren't throwing the ball particularly well. We felt like our best avenue to follow in order to get a win would be to rely on that running game. And up front, they did a nice job. Our backs saw the blocking schemes develop and the holes as they needed to, and it allowed us to have, again, a lot of success. Jarvis had over 150 yards, which is great to see. In our team meetings on Friday night, I kind of put my arm around him and I said, how about a 100-yard day tomorrow? And he, of course, thought, hey, that sounds like a good idea, Coach. And, again, just collectively as a group offensively, they did a nice job of opening up those running lanes, and then our backs seeing them and hitting them and getting the yards that we needed.
Talk about Jarvis, of course, and then kind of balancing that act out is Charles Hall, who's been a goal line guy for you guys so far, just kind of pushing through the line and get those 1-yard touchdowns that you guys need.
Yeah.
What is it about him that makes him so good at just putting his nose down?
Well, I think he has good vision, which helps him as a fullback too. A lot of times fullback, he has to insert on the line of scrimmage just like the ball carrier does, with his whatever his blocking assignment is. So any good fullback sees the line really, really well. So Charles definitely does that. He's physical, and he also understands like what he needs, right? So, I mean, if it was 3rd and 4, he would run that carry a little bit differently, but generally speaking, where he has 1 yard or maybe 2 to go, he understands what he needs to do to get that 1 or 2 yards, and that's a credit to him. Sometimes players don't understand like just the exact scenario and situation, but he definitely does, and that has allowed him to be very successful. The plays that we've ran on the goal line for him, I think there's a lot of belief in our huddle that they'll be successful with it, and it's allowed us to have continued success with it, throughout the season. So.
You talk about that belief kind of in the huddle, starting from the huddle, going to the line. What does that do for the offensive linemen, trusting that if they get their blocks that they're going to find the end zone?
Well, it's big, and that's kind of the name of the game in football is if you trust your teammates and you believe in them to do their job, it allows you to do your job more effectively. That's always a work in progress and something that you're always stressing and emphasizing to players is, be 1/11th. You can't do somebody else's responsibility. You have to do your own. And once you start looking outside of yourself at, what the guy next to me and behind me and all those different things are doing, I think you limit your own success rate. So it's just really important that you trust the guy next to you that he's going to do his job. It allows you to focus more on yours. And so for us, with those particular plays as we were talking about with Charles, there's just a lot of trust and belief that if I do my part, I know the other 10 guys around me are going to do theirs, and this play will go. So that's a good feeling, especially on the goal line.
Yeah. Obviously, you'd like to run the ball 50-plus times a game and get that ground game running, but that's not always available for you guys. How do you then balance the passing game with that? How do you guys get better at through the air, get your quarterbacks, getting your wide receivers open, stuff like that?
Well, it's a good question, and that's something that we're working on, and you have to be a balanced offense. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're 50-50 or anything like that, but what it means is that you do enough to keep the other team from being able to really play one-sided. And so you have to be able to do that. You have to distribute the ball amongst the guys on the team and make sure that it's not just one receiver catching the ball, but it's multiple receivers and multiple ball carriers are getting their hands on it. That allows you to, as I said, to have the balance that you need to have, and it keeps the defense off balance. So for us, in terms of the passing game, we just need to continue to fine-tune the details and make sure it's clear as far as what we're trying to get done on a given pass play. We talked about Charles understanding what he needs to do in the short yardage. Our quarterbacks or wideouts, tight ends, they need to understand clearly, like, this is what we're trying to get done, whatever the passing concept is, and then they got to go out and do it.
Looking forward to next week, St. Cloud State's been pretty good offensively, 17 rushing touchdowns, 11 passing touchdowns, only 3 interceptions. I think they're averaging over 4 yards carry on the ground. You kind of talked last week about, an offense that runs that many plays and stuff like that. They're going to get some yardage, but you have to get up. Are you guys going to kind of preach that same thing this week, or is it you guys need to limit their big playability?
Well, you always go into a game wanting to limit and eliminate big plays. I mean, that's, along with turnovers, one of the really key measurements that dictates winning and losing are those big plays. So we got to eliminate those. When you play really good offense, they're going to get yards, 3 here, 4 there, and you just have to be able to weather those storms when teams are really going fast and getting a little bit of chunk yardage as you go. Again, keeping things inside and in front, not giving up the big play, and then when you get in the red zone, eliminating scoring opportunities is really the key to, like, in my mind, of a great defense. So, they're throwing the ball really well. They're moving the ball in chunks, and so it's going to be a challenge for our guys. We've got to make sure that we're up to that challenge, in terms of our practice preparation, our film study, and knowing when we can take chances defensively and when we can't.
I haven't seen any film on the team. Are they a high-powered offense? Are they no huddle type of team? Or are they doing a lot of plays?
Yeah, they've been very good that way. They've got a good quarterback that is really making that thing go for them. He's had a bunch of different games where he's thrown for a number of yards, but also different guys. We talked about balance, different receivers, tight ends, catching multiple passes, touchdowns, and so they're definitely an explosive attack, and it's an attack that, again, for us, we just got to make sure we eliminate big plays, keep things in front of us, and then we get down to that red zone. If they get down there, that we really dig our heels in and play effectively down there.
Do you guys have that depth in the defense to kind of sub people in and out if there's ever a moment where some of your guys are getting tired?
Yeah, that's something that we've worked at very, very hard in terms of developing depth and across our whole program. We got to get better that way. There's some positions that are better than others. Last week's game, it was hot in comparison to what we've been practicing under the last couple of weeks. It was 20, 25 degrees hotter on game day, which makes a big difference through the course of a football game, particularly for the big guys. So we went into the game understanding that we're going to have to substitute quite a bit to keep fresh legs on the field, and I think our coaches did a really nice job of doing that. In terms of just being able to play these up-tempo systems, you have to be able to sub and you have to have depth. I know Michigan State played Oregon a few weeks ago, and Oregon, of course, they're running 90, 95 plays a game, and I think Michigan State played 27 or 28 different defensive players between defensive line, linebackers, and the secondary, and they're really good defense. So I think that kind of models like what you have to do when you're playing teams that are up-tempo and play really fast.
You're on the road, again, coming off the road and then going back on. They're 2-1 at home so far this season. Only a 1-point loss was their only loss. What were the difficulties and the challenges of keeping your team focused when you have to go back-to-back road games?
Well, it starts a lot just with like their health and their kind of day-to-day lives, in terms of their academics and things that they have to manage, outside of football. I think that's the challenge for any college athlete, is trying to manage everything that they have on their plate day to day. So they have those issues, because it's a short week in terms of, what you can get done, because you get on the road early Friday morning. These guys just got to make sure they get everything handled before they get on that bus, so by the time they get on the bus, they can feel comfortable and relaxed, and they can get some rest. The other challenge when you go on the road, obviously, is new environment, new stadium, hotel, places you eat. There's all those factors that play into it, and so for a good football team to play well on the road, they're able to block out a lot of that noise and a lot of that newness and just focus on what really matters, which is between the white lines come game day. And that's the difference between a good team on the road and a not so good team, is the game is still played between those white lines, and you have to treat it like that and not worry about all the other elements that can go into it. And so that's something that we're going to have to do this week.
Coach, you came home with a victory last week, a great win for the program. Hopefully you'll come home with a win as well this week. I wish you guys good luck, and thanks for coming, as always.
Well, hope's not a strategy, so we got to make sure that we're ready to go. So
yeah, I like that. All right.
So our kids will be excited and ready to play.
All right. Thanks.
Yep.